morning sky over Seoul turned bright orange as the first alien ships appeared through the clouds. Commander Park Jin-woo stood on the roof of the military headquarters, watching the massive vessels descend like floating mountains. Their hulls gleamed silver in the sunlight, and they moved without making any sound. "How many?" asked Lieutenant Kim Min-ji, running up the stairs with her radio crackling with panicked voices. 12 over the city. Reports coming in from Tokyo, Beijing, New York. They're everywhere at once. Jin-woo's voice stayed calm, but his hands shook slightly as he gripped his binoculars. The alien ships stopped moving when they reached about 1,000 feet above the tallest buildings. For several minutes, nothing happened. People in the streets below pointed up at the sky, some taking pictures with their phones. Traffic stopped as drivers got out of their cars to stare. Then the shooting began. Bright blue beams shot down from the ships like lightning, but they moved slowly and deliberately. The first beam hit the National Defense Building 3 blocks away. The entire structure simply vanished in a flash of white light, leaving only empty space where it had been. All units returned fire. Jin-woo shouted into his radio. "Target." The closest ship. The human response was immediate but useless. Tank shells and missiles struck the alien vessels and bounced off harmlessly. The ships didn't even seem to notice the attacks. They continued their methodical destruction, targeting military bases, government buildings, and communication towers. Dr. Kang Soo-min was treating patients in Seoul National Hospital when the windows began to shake. She looked outside and saw one of the alien ships floating directly above the medical center. A small section of its hull opened. Strange creatures began floating down on beams of light. The aliens were tall and thin, with smooth gray skin and large black eyes. They moved gracefully, as if walking on air. They began examining everything around them with small handheld devices that glowed soft blue. "They're not killing civilians," Soo-min whispered to the nurse beside her. "Look, they're just ... studying us." The aliens seemed more interested in understanding than destroying. They scanned people, buildings, and vehicles with their devices. But they didn't hurt anyone who didn't attack them first. When a group of police officers tried to arrest one of the creatures, it simply pointed a device at them. The officers fell asleep instantly. Within hours, the pattern became clear across the world. The aliens who called themselves the Zilani had superior technology and overwhelming numbers. They disabled human military forces without much effort, but they didn't massacre the population. Instead, they set up control zones in every major city and began organizing the human survivors. Commander Park Jin-woo found himself trapped in an underground bunker with what remained of his unit. The Zilani had destroyed all military installations on the surface, forcing the human forces to retreat into subway tunnels and basement shelters. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Kim Min-gi. "It's coming from ... space." The voice that came through the radio was human, speaking Korean with a slight accent. "This is Admiral Lee Dong-yoon, commanding the asteroid mining station Sajong. Is anyone receiving this signal?" Jin-woo grabbed the radio. It's Commander Park Jin-woo, Seoul Defense Command. "Admiral, thank God you're alive. What's your status?" "We're watching everything from up here," Dong-yoon replied. "The aliens have ships around Earth, but they're not paying attention to the outer system. They seem focused entirely on the planets." "Surface, can you help us?" Jin-woo asked desperately. "We're working on it. The mining colonies on Europa and Titan are still operational. The aliens apparently don't consider space-based facilities a threat." There was a pause. "They made a mistake, Commander. They think conquering Earth means conquering humanity." Above the planet, Admiral Lee Dong-yoon watched the alien occupation from his command station hidden in the asteroid belt. The Zilani had dozens of ships around Earth, but they were all focused downward, toward the surface. Their formation left huge gaps in space that a clever pilot could exploit. "They fight like they've never left their home planet," observed Captain Yang Hayasu. Studying the alien ship movements, "Look at their positioning. They're thinking in 2 dimensions, not 3. The Zilani commander stood in his flagship's control room, satisfied with the day's progress. The human species had been conquered more easily than expected. Their technology was primitive, their resistance weak and disorganized. Then a few months, that if so, a world would be properly prepared for colonization. He didn't notice the small human mining ships moving through the asteroid field, or the hidden bases scattered. Throughout the outer solar system, the Zilani had spent centuries conquering planets, but they had never faced a species that had already spread beyond their homeworld. As night fell over Earth, the two sides prepared for a very different kind of war than either had expected. The Zilani controlled the ground, but they had no idea that humanity's real strength lay in the dark void above their heads. 3 months after the invasion, Dr. Kong Sumin crawled through the abandoned subway tunnels beneath Busan with a backpack full of medical supplies. The underground had become a maze of hidden camps where human survivors lived like shadows. She had learned to move silently, always listening for the soft humming sound that meant Zilani patrols were nearby. The resistance had grown stronger each week, though nobody knew exactly how. Weapons and equipment appeared overnight in secret locations. Fresh batteries, communication radios, and sometimes even hot meals materialized in hidden drops throughout the city. The Zilani couldn't figure out where these supplies came from. "Doctor, over here," whispered Zhou Taeyan, a former police officer who now led the Busan resistance cell. He was treating a wounded fighter who had been caught in a Zilani scan. This one was exposed to their sleeping device for too long. Something's wrong with his nervous system. Suman examined the patient carefully. His hands shook uncontrollably, and his eyes couldn't focus properly. She had seen similar symptoms in other resistance fighters, but this case was more severe. As she worked, she noticed something strange about the tunnel walls around them. "Taeyan, look at this," she said, pointing to the metal support beams. "See how they're vibrating slightly? It's the same frequency as our old radio transmitters." High above Earth, Captain Young Hayasu guided her converted mining ship through the debris field that surrounded the planet. The Zilani had left their damaged vessels floating in orbit, creating a perfect hiding place for human ships. Her cargo bay was filled with supplies for the resistance below. Approaching Drop Zone 7, reported Engineer Choi Minho from the sensor station. No alien activity. In the area, they really don't patrol space very much. Young Hayasu smiled grimly. The Zilani were making the same mistake that many ground-based civilizations made. They thought controlling the surface meant controlling everything. They had no idea that humanity had been living and working in space for decades. Her ship was originally designed for asteroid mining, but the crew had modified it for stealth operations. They had removed the heavy mining equipment and installed cloaking devices salvaged from research stations. The ship could now slip past Zilani sensors like a ghost. "Beginning supply drop," Minho announced. "Coordinates locked on the resistance. Safe house." The supplies dropped silently through the atmosphere in specially designed containers that would burn up completely after delivery. The Zilani never saw them coming, and the resistance fighters on the ground received exactly what they needed to continue their fight. Back in the tunnels, Dr. Suman was making a disturbing discovery. She had been studying the effects of Zilani technology on human prisoners, and she noticed a pattern. The aliens' stunning devices, their communication systems, and even their medical scanners all operated on similar electromagnetic frequencies. "They're sensitive to our radio waves," she explained to Taeyan during a secret meeting. "I think their nervous systems are designed for a different kind of environment. Our electromagnetic signals might actually hurt them." To test her theory, Suman asked the resistance to capture a Zilani patrol unit. The operation was dangerous, but they managed to isolate 3 aliens in an abandoned shopping mall. When Sumin exposed them to signals from a standard human radio transmitter, the creatures immediately showed signs of distress they can't handle. "Our frequencies," she reported excitedly. "Every piece of human technology broadcasts signals that interfere with their biology. We've been surrounded by weapons this whole time and didn't know it." Meanwhile, in the outer solar system, Admiral Lee Dong-yoon was building something the Zilani had never seen before. The mining colonies on Europa and Titan were being converted into military bases. Civilian ships were being armed with mining lasers and equipped with military-grade communication systems. "The beauty of it," he explained to his officers, "is that we're not building weapons. We're just using the tools we already have in ways they don't expect." The asteroid mining ships were perfect for space combat. They were designed to work in zero gravity, built to handle high-energy operations, and equipped with precision instruments that could target objects millions of miles away. Most importantly, they were completely invisible to the Zilani, who saw them as harmless industrial equipment. Commander Park Jin-woo received a coded message in his underground bunker. The transmission came through the city's old emergency broadcast system, a network the Zilani had ignored because they thought it was outdated technology. "All resistance cells, this is Sky Command," the message said. "Begin preparation for Phase 2. Equipment drops will increase. New targets identified." The aliens are about to discover they made a very big mistake. The Zilani commander in Seoul was becoming frustrated. Human resistance was supposed to decrease over time, but instead it was getting stronger and more organized. His forces were being hit by coordinated attacks that seemed to come from nowhere. Supply convoys disappeared, communication towers were sabotaged, and his troops reported strange equipment malfunctions. "Perhaps we underestimated this species," his science officer suggested. "They may be more advanced than we initially assessed." The commander dismissed the suggestion. "Impossible. We destroyed their military in a single day. They have no space-based defenses, no advanced technology, no organized leadership. These are just the desperate actions of a dying species." He had no idea that high above his head, humanity's real military was preparing to show him exactly how wrong he was. The raid on the Zilani command post in Incheon happened on a cold Tuesday morning. Jo Taeyeon led 12 resistance fighters through the abandoned industrial district, moving between rusted shipping containers and broken concrete barriers. The alien outpost was built inside what used to be a car factory, with their strange blue lights glowing through the broken windows. "Remember, we need their computer systems intact," Taeyeon whispered to his team. "Dr. Suman thinks their data files might tell us why they're really here." The attack was quick and brutal. The resistance fighters used modified radio transmitters to jam the Zilani nervous systems, causing the aliens to collapse in confusion. Within minutes, the outpost was secure, and the humans were downloading everything they could from the alien computers. What they found changed everything. "They're not conquerors," Taeyeon said later, staring at the translated data files in disbelief. "They're running from something that destroyed their home planet." The files described a species called the Void Devourers, creatures that move from star system to star system, consuming entire planets and leaving nothing behind. The Zilani had fled their dying world just ahead of this cosmic horror, searching desperately for a new home where they could hide. "Earth wasn't chosen for conquest," Dr. Kong Soo-min read from the translation. "It was chosen as a fortress. Thought if they could control the surface quickly, they could build defenses before the Devourers arrived." The revelation spread through the resistance network like wildfire. The Zilani invasion had been driven by fear, not ambition. They had attacked Earth not because they wanted to rule humans, but because they were terrified of what was chasing them through space. In the asteroid belt, Admiral Lee Dong-yoon received the intelligence report from the surface. He studied the data while floating in the zero-gravity command center of his hidden base. It's built inside a hollowed-out asteroid that the Zilani had never bothered to scan. "So they're refugees," he said, to Captain Yang Hyesu. "Desperate refugees who made a very bad first impression." Yang Hyesu nodded grimly. "The question is, what do we do about the Void Devourers? According to these files, they may be 2 years away from reaching our solar system." The mining colonies throughout the outer system had been busy for months, converting civilian infrastructure into military assets. The Europa base was now a weapons manufacturing facility. The Titan Research Station had become a strategic command center. The asteroid mining ships had been modified into a fleet of stealth fighters. "We have something the Zilani don't," Dong-yoon observed. "We know how to fight in space. We've been living out here for decades, building cities in the void, mining resources from dead rocks. Space is our natural environment." On Earth, the resistance was adapting to their new knowledge. Commander Park Jin-woo coordinated with Dr. Suman to develop new tactics. Instead of simply fighting the Zilani, they began targeting their supply lines and communication networks with surgical precision. Every satellite, every communication relay, every piece of orbital equipment Jinwoo explained to his lieutenants. We're going to turn our own technology into a weapon system. The plan was audacious. Earth had hundreds of satellites in orbit, most of them ignored by the Zilani because they seemed harmless. Communication satellites, weather monitoring systems, GPS networks, scientific research platforms. All of them broadcast electromagnetic signals that could be weaponized against the aliens. Dr. Suman worked with resistance technicians to modify the satellite systems remotely. They couldn't change the hardware. They could alter the broadcast frequencies to create coordinated electromagnetic pulses that would overwhelm Zilani nervous systems across entire cities. The first test came during a Zilani patrol in downtown Seoul. As the alien squad moved through the empty streets, every cell tower, every Wi-Fi router, every electronic device in the area suddenly began broadcasting on the same frequency. The Zilani collapsed instantly, their sophisticated technology useless against the simple electromagnetic noise that humans lived with every day. It's working, Suman reported excitedly. We can disable their forces without firing a single shot. Zilani command structure began to notice the pattern. Their patrols were being hit by some kind of invisible weapon that left no physical damage but rendered their troops unconscious. Their communication networks were being disrupted by interference that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The humans are more resourceful than we calculated, the Zilani science officer reported to his commander. They're using their primitive technology in ways we didn't anticipate. The commander was becoming desperate. His forces were supposed to be preparing Earth's defenses for the approaching void devourers. But instead, they were losing ground to a species they had dismissed as technologically inferior. High above, Admiral Dong-Yoon watched the alien ships struggle to maintain their positions in Earth orbit. The Zilani had built their fleet for planetary assault, not extended space operations. They were burning through their fuel reserves and couldn't properly maintain their equipment without ground-based support. They're vulnerable, he told his officers. They conquered the surface, but they never learned to truly control space. That's going to be their downfall. The stage was set for humanity's counterattack. The Zilani controlled the ground, but they had no idea that Earth's children had been born to rule the infinite darkness above their heads. The attack began at exactly 6 o'clock Seoul time. Admiral Lee Dong-Yoon's fleet emerged from behind the moon like a swarm of angry wasps, their modified mining ships bristling with improvised weapons. The Zilani orbital stations, which had seemed so powerful during the invasion, suddenly looked fragile and exposed. All units, this is Sky Command, Dong-Yoon broadcast to his pilots. Remember, we're not trying to match their firepower. We're going to outmaneuver them. Captain Yang Hyesu led the first wave of attacks in her converted asteroid miner. The ships' original drilling lasers had been modified into precision weapons that could cut through alien hull plating like paper. She approached the nearest Zilani vessel, using the same techniques she had learned from years of asteroid mining patience, precision, and an intimate knowledge of orbital mechanics. Target their communication arrays first. She ordered her crew cut off their ability to coordinate. The Zilani had never faced this kind of warfare before. Their ships were designed for planetary bombardment, not ship-to-ship combat in the vacuum of space. They moved slowly and predictably, like huge targets waiting to be hit. The human ships darted around them like mosquitoes. It's too small and fast to target effectively on Earth. The second phase of the attack began simultaneously. Dr. Kang. Suman activated the orbital weapon system she had spent months preparing. Every satellite, every communication tower, every piece of human technology in space suddenly turned into a coordinated electromagnetic bombardment. The effect was immediate and devastating. Zilani ground forces throughout the world writhed in agony as their nervous systems overloaded. Their sophisticated equipment shut down completely, leaving them blind and helpless. The aliens who had seemed so powerful just hours before were now stumbling around like confused children. Commander Park Jin-woo watched the chaos from his underground bunker, monitoring radio reports from resistance cells across the globe. All units, this is Seoul Command. The aliens are down. Begin surface operations immediately. The resistance fighters emerged from their hiding places like a tide. They had been preparing for this moment for months, stockpiling weapons and mapping every Zilani position. Now they moved with ruthless efficiency, capturing alien equipment and securing strategic locations. In the Inchin Industrial District, Jotaeon's team stormed the same command post they had raided weeks earlier. This time they weren't looking for information. They were taking prisoners. The Zilani inside were completely helpless, their technology useless against the electromagnetic storm raging around them. "Secure the area," Taeyeon ordered. "We need to keep some of them alive for questioning." High above, the space battle was going better than Admiral Dong-yoon had dared to hope. The Zilani fleet was designed for overwhelming planetary assault. Not the kind of three-dimensional warfare that humans had mastered through decades of asteroid mining and space construction. "They're trying to retreat to the far side of the moon," reported one of his pilots. "Should we pursue?" "Negative," Dong-yoon replied. "Let them run. We want them to know they've lost control of Earth's orbital space." The human ships moved with a grace that the Zilani couldn't match. They used gravitational fields to slingshot around debris, hid behind asteroids, attacked from angles that ground-based thinking couldn't anticipate. Every human pilot had years of experience working in zero gravity. While the Zilani were clearly struggling with basic space operations, Captain Yang Haisu's ship cornered a damaged Zilani cruiser near one of Earth's communication satellites. The alien vessel was trying to escape, but its engines were failing. Instead of destroying it, she opened a communication channel. "Zilani vessel, this is Captain Yang of the Earth Defense Force. Your ship is disabled. Surrender now, and you will not be harmed." The response came in broken English. We cannot surrender. The Devourers come. You do not understand the danger." "Then maybe it's time we talked," Yang replied. On the surface, the resistance was discovering that the Zilani were not the merciless conquerors they had seemed. Many of the aliens were clearly terrified, and not just of the humans. They kept looking up at the sky, scanning for something that hadn't arrived yet. Dr. Suman found herself treating wounded Zilani in the same hospital where she had first seen them. Months ago, the electromagnetic weapons had caused significant neurological damage, but it wasn't permanent. With proper treatment, the aliens could recover completely. "Why did you come here?" she asked one of the prisoners, a young Zilani who seemed less hostile than the others. "Home gone," the alien replied in halting English. "Devourers ate everything. We look for safe place. Build walls in space. Hide from the hunger." The picture was becoming clearer. The Zilani invasion had been a desperate attempt to fortify Earth against a cosmic threat that humanity didn't even know existed. They had attacked because they were running out of time, not because they wanted to conquer for conquest's sake. Commander Park Jin-woo received reports from resistance cells across the world. The Zilani ground forces were either captured or in retreat. Their orbital support was gone, their communication networks were destroyed, and their command structure had collapsed. "The planet is secure," he reported to Admiral Dong-yoon. "But we need to talk about what comes next. These aliens are more afraid of something else than they are of us." The counterattack had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. Earth belonged to humanity once again. But in the darkness of space, something far more dangerous was still approaching. The final confrontation took place in the space between Earth and the Moon, where the remnants of the Zilani fleet floated like wounded animals. Admiral Lee Dong-yoon's ships surrounded them in a loose formation, their weapons trained on the alien vessels but not firing. The battle was over, but the war had revealed something much more dangerous. "This is Admiral Lee Dong-yoon of the Earth Defense Force." He broadcast to the lead Zilani ship. "We need to talk." The alien commander's reply came through crackling, with static. "We have failed. The Devourers will find this system. All will be consumed. We are sorry for the attack. We were desperate." Dr. Kong Soo-min floated in the medical bay of Dong-yoon's flagship, studying the data they had recovered from captured Zilani computers. The information was terrifying, according to the alien records. The Void Devourers were massive creatures that traveled through space, feeding on entire planets. They consumed everything: rock, metal, organic matter, even the electromagnetic fields that held atoms together. They're not just predators, she explained to the Joint Command Council through video link. They're like a cosmic plague. They turn everything they touch into more of themselves, and then they move on to the next system. Captain Yang Hayusu reviewed the tactical data from her ship's sensors. The Zilani had been tracking the Devourer's movement through space, and the projections were clear. The creatures would reach Earth's solar system in approximately 18 months. The aliens weren't lying about the timeline, she reported. Whatever these things are, they're coming here whether we're ready or not. On Earth, Commander Park, Jinwoo stood in the ruins of Seoul, watching human and Zilani engineers work together to repair the damage from the electromagnetic attacks. The decision to offer the alien sanctuary had been controversial, but it was the only logical choice. Humanity needed their technology and knowledge to survive what was coming. It's strange, he said to Zhou Taiyan, who was coordinating the joint operations. 6 months ago, we were trying to kill each other. Now we're building weapons together. The Zilani had brought advanced shield technology and energy weapons that humanity had never seen before. In exchange, humans offered something. The aliens had never experienced true mastery of space-based warfare. The Zilani had conquered dozens of worlds. They had never learned to fight in the three-dimensional battlefield of the void. Dr. Suman worked closely with Zilani scientists to understand the Devourer's biology. The creatures were unlike anything either species had encountered. They existed partially in normal space and partially in some other dimension, making them nearly impossible to detect until they were already consuming a planet. They're drawn to electromagnetic activity, she explained to the Defense Planning Committee. The more advanced a civilization is, the more attractive it becomes to them. That's why the Zilani came here. Earth's radio signals and satellite networks made us a target. The revelation was sobering. Humanity's greatest achievements, their global communication networks, their space-based infrastructure, their technological civilization, were essentially ringing the dinner bell for cosmic predators. Admiral Dong Yun coordinated the joint defense preparations from the Lunar Command Center that had been hastily constructed from salvaged materials. Human mining ships worked alongside Zilani construction vessels to build a network of orbital defense platforms. The plan was ambitious. They would use Earth's natural electromagnetic field as a weapon, amplifying it through a series of satellites and ground-based transmitters. We're turning the entire planet into a giant electromagnetic pulse generator, he explained to his officers. If the Devourers are sensitive to energy fields, we'll give them more than they can handle. The Zilani commander, whose name translated roughly as Swift Wind, worked closely with the human leadership despite the language barriers. The species had tried to fight the Devourers using conventional weapons and had failed completely. Human approach was different. Instead of meeting force with force, they were using the planet's natural properties as a defense system. Your people think in ways we never considered, Swift Wind admitted through the translation device. We saw planets as things to be defended. You see space itself as a battlefield. The construction continued for months. Human asteroid miners built weapons platforms throughout the solar system. Zilani energy specialists created shield generators that could protect entire continents. The two species shared knowledge freely, knowing that their survival depended on cooperation. Captain Yang Haesu commanded the Outer System Defense Force, a fleet of converted mining ships and alien vessels that would serve as humanity's early warning system. Her pilots trained constantly, practicing the kind of three-dimensional combat that had allowed them to defeat the Zilani so easily. Remember, she told her squadron leaders, "We're not trying to destroy these things, we're trying to make them. Think Earth is too dangerous to approach." The first tests of the planetary defense system were conducted on a moonless night. When the electromagnetic pulse fired, it was visible from space as a brilliant blue aurora that covered the entire planet. The energy output was enormous, enough to disrupt electronic equipment on nearby asteroids. As the deadline approached, Commander Park Jinwoo reflected on how much had changed. The Zilani had conquered Earth's surface, but in doing so they had awakened something far more dangerous: humanity's determination to protect their home. The aliens had controlled the ground. They had never understood that Earth's children were born to rule the infinite darkness above. The Devourers were coming, but they would find Earth defended by two species who had learned to work together in the vast emptiness of space.